Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
You didn't say that. You should remind us.
You're right. Did you think there wasn't a group? It's been that sort of weekend. I have to say, I think Elchanan had 3 stone settings and a wedding. Sounds like a film on Sunday, doesn't it? Yeah. And then an engagement party, and then a birthday. It was like a, and yeah, I forgot to send a reminder on the group. So well done, all of you, for coming. As far as we know, this is continuing till August. We're going to take, as I hope you all realise by now, August is called the holy month of August because the Rabbi and Rebbetzin need to breathe. So we won't be meeting during the month of August, but we will be meeting all the way through. And then I'm hoping everyone wants, we'll be back on in September. You've got to keep your emails coming, otherwise I won't have the material to share. Today's going to be a bit of a heavy one, sorry, but there's just been some really tough times. Like we shared last week about, Kathy shared about her granddaughter's friend, but I have to tell you, everywhere I've gone, everyone is friends with this young man who passed away, the Rosenfeld, and I didn't realise. So his cousin is married to my neighbour, who I'm best friends with his sister. Like, you know, I didn't realise it was that Rosenfeld family. So it's really like everyone knows who they are, and everyone has some connections, and we'll read some beautiful things that were written about them. But I also want to start, this might be a family that people are familiar with as well. There's a Tehillim group that I'm on. I was added by a member of the community, and it's for a little baby who is very sick. And unfortunately, I think that she's not responding to treatment, and now they've moved across to palliative care. But what's interesting about being on this group, I didn't realise as I was on the group that I actually know, as we all do in our very small Jewish community, but I know the family's connection, you know, we're all connected. But I think, so the baby's name is Celine Ruby Ziff. I don't know if anyone's come across the Ziff family. Her Hebrew name is Miri Esther Bat Chava. And what I think is really beautiful is they've asked, so on this we're saying Tehillim on this group, but I would like our learning today to look after her. But what's beautiful on this group is it also includes all her parents and her siblings, because obviously they're all going through some really difficult times. So we're really going to have in mind also her mother Sophie, who's Chava Bat Sharon, her father Ben, Zissel Benjamin Abba Ben Dina Chana, her older sister Luna, who's a little girl but has been told that her baby's very unwell, and the direction that it's going. Ayala Esther Bat Chava, and also her twin, who's Meir Chaim Shlomo Ben Chava. So you're talking about babas, like real babies. And I think that when we talk about Emunah, and we talk about having faith, and we talk about feeling God there, normally it's because you see things turn out, and you see things go in the direction that you need them to go in. But actually, I think the time when it really comes down to, as we all know in all of our lives, is when it's not going in the direction that we need it to, when things aren't going to just get better. And to be able to even then say, or maybe through that, or maybe because of that, to really during those times be able to say, you know, can I feel closer to God then? Or maybe that's the time when I really need, like we spoke about last time, the footprints in the snow. That's when I can see those footprints in front of me, and they are there to help me because I'm going through some really hard times. So we're really thinking of that family. So I'm going to share a few of the different articles that I came across this week, and some that people have sent in to me as well. So this first one was shared. I'm going to show you the pictures first. So this is one of the pictures, which was an Israeli flag with lots of names written on it. Okay, and you can see over here, this is the soldier wearing the Israeli flag with all the names on. Okay, so this is the story about that. This week was my son's Masa Kumpta, the traditional 45-kilometer overnight walk in full gear that marks the end of training to become a qualified combat soldier. We met them for the last kilometer. The air was filled with success, accomplishment, and high energy. It was a wonderful moment meeting up with them and joining them. I saw my son had an Israeli flag on his back. It was full of names. I naively thought they were his and his friends' names. I thought it was patriotic and cute. And then I realized whose names were on the flag, and I gulped and stopped. The flag was covered with names of these soldiers' friends and acquaintances who had been killed since October the 7th, fighting for our ability to live in our country. I got choked up and felt deeply saddened for these young people who have lost so many people they knew and loved. But I saw that they're not sad. These are friends my son and his friends miss, but the way they deal with it made me pause. My son is pretty matter of fact about it. He had taken a huge banner with him of a fallen friend to the concentration camps in Poland. He excitedly told me that he saw Oz when he was in Eilat, showing me the sticker in Oz's memory on a piano on the Broadwalk and on a pole in the market. We've all seen they've got amazing, everyone who falls, they make these amazing stickers of them with a quote about them or something. So they're stuck all over. So he'd seen his friend Oz there. When I teared up, he shook his head at me and said, "Mum, Oz is dead, but he's being remembered here." And I realized what they're doing, how they're doing this going forward thing. They're taking their friends with them. No wallowing, moving forward and doing what needs to be done next, with their fallen friends and community members coming along. The two slogans on the side of the flag explain how they're accomplishing this. Lo nishkach v'lo nislach. We will not forget and we will not forgive. And Am hanetzach lo mefached miderech aruka. The eternal nation is not afraid of the long road. And that's how they're doing this. They know they're part of something bigger, that themselves in this of something bigger than themselves, in this generation and in the chain of generations back to Abraham. And they also will not forget what was done to their friends and who did it. I stand in awe of these young people and how they're managing to merge pain, loss, suffering, ambition, commitment, vision, and purpose. They are remarkable, and we are blessed to have them. The contrast between that and what horrendous things were being said about the idea. These people are our heroes. These young, we forget sometimes they are kids. They are kids, you know. Think about like my Ruvain's 19. That's the age they are. Frankie's age. You know, they're little boys, they're little girls, and they're going out there and they're doing all of this for all of us. These people are amazing, and they're losing their friends, and they're finding a way to walk forward, even with all of that.
Yesterday, husband just come over from Israel, and he was talking about the 18 to 35. We lost.
It can't be that you haven't lost a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
If any of you last summer, we had what's her name, Ariella. We had that young soldier who was speaking about what she's gone through, and I started following her on Instagram, and she's going around the world and she's living her life and she's talking to people and she's carrying her friends with her wherever she goes, because she knows that's what they want. You know, when they say we will dance again, it's not just that, it's they know that their friends want them to live their best life, but they're taking them alongside with them, like the names on the back. So this next article is from a few weeks ago, and it's written by Jane Winnick, who's coming to speak in the Shul on Wednesday evening. So if you haven't signed up to come and speak to her, this is a busy week, so I'm going to tell you to come to two things. But Wednesday night is really something that you'll see. She writes so beautifully. So if you don't follow her, you'll get, this gives you a little bit of a taste of when she was talking about faith. And thank you to Stella for sharing this with me. So yesterday, as a birthday treat, I took time for a beautiful, peaceful walk along the Leeds-Liverpool Canal. As I walked along this beautiful path, I was thinking about Israel and life there, the hostages who we remember every day, and also faith. In particular, my faith. I was brought up traditional, middle-of-the-road, Orthodox-ish, I like that, Orthodox-ish, and still maintain that. But a few years ago, my faith wavered. I lost a close friend too young and found myself questioning why her. She was good through and through, and I was angry. It made no sense and still doesn't. So I found myself in uncharted waters with my relationship with God. October the 7th was a further challenge. Why? Why let this happen? If we are chosen, what are we chosen for? Questions all the time, and unable to take comfort in the religion as I always had. But lately, my faith is being restored, even in this extremely testing time, because every day, all around me, I see and feel the spirit of the Jewish people. Every day you hear another story of tremendous bravery, courage, or kindness. Our visits to Israel have been full of amazing, miraculous acts of survival or strength. Even in the darkest times, there is something. I am in awe of our people. As we stood at Nova and said prayers in the saddest place, it felt right to pray again. A Sefer Torah is being written at Nova, a rededication to God. I understand why it's important to do that there, in this place of sadness and evil. Why we have to turn back to the book and to God rather than away. And here around me, I have conversations and support from so many every day. Disagreements for sure sometimes, but love when I need it. Incredible that so many reach out to each other. This community that has developed is now so important to me. And as it was my birthday yesterday, so many messages of love and thanks. Even on a difficult birthday, my first without any parents, I felt supported and I was so grateful to all. So my faith is somewhat restored. In God, yes, I feel a bit more comfortable in my relationship with a higher being. Lots of questions always, but that is how it should be. Judaism is not a cult, but also faith in the Jewish people and what sustains us in these times, what makes even the least religious still Jewish. So today, as I have my official book launch tonight on Leeds, I want to say a personal thanks to you all, those who have read my blogs from the beginning, those that are new to them, those that reach out and those that don't, to those who encourage me to keep going and those that put up with me at home. It is indeed a journey and one I hope I will end in peace. But somewhere along this time, my faith became renewed and restored, and for that, I thank God and you all. I think that's a really, Stella always says it's as if we're all writing it. I feel like she shares a voice of how we all feel. And I think that she doesn't come to Emunah, but she could, right? This is kind of everyone has times where we're just not sure, or we're really angry, or we're really lost. And since October the 7th and more, we're kind of grappling and refinding, and even the people who don't come here, I'm sure in the conversations you're having with people, there's something changing in us as the Jewish people. We're talking about God more, we're talking to God more, but we're also seeing the beauty in each other. And as much as we can, we're trying to just focus on the beauty, because I know there's so much rubbish that we could be focusing on, and it just pulls us down. And I want to mention at this point that our Emunah group got a very special plug yesterday, but not in a place that you would have expected. So Susie had the stone setting for her mother yesterday in Bushy Cemetery, and she spoke about our Emunah group, and she spoke about how being where you're meant to be, Bushy was never the plan, and look how loved and valued she is as part of our community. Susie just shared with me how she feels that it was her mother's gift bringing her here, because she really is such an important part of who we are. But the messages that we share here on Emunah, and I think we are all now ambassadors for these messages. I'll tell you something a little bit funny. We don't often have Zoom calls with the chief rabbi, but on Friday we did. I know it sounds like, oh, I'm name dropping, but we had a Zoom call, Elchanan and I, with the chief rabbi about a project that he wants to start, which is exciting. And it was on Friday because that's just he wants to talk to us quite quickly, and that's when we were available. And I got a call from Malka, called me after. She's like, Mummy, I called you 4 times. Why didn't you answer your phone? So I said, I was on a Zoom with the chief rabbi. She goes, okay. So I could say like, no, that was okay. I'm not sure there's anyone else that would have been okay, but that was okay. But one of the things at the end, so I am definitely not my own, like good at pushing myself forward or my own agent, but as you all know, Elchanan definitely is. And he was trying to tell the chief rabbi that I should be speaking to this about to the rabbinate. Whether it happens or not, I don't know, but to talk about how every shul, every community should be having conversations about Emunah and about faith. And to me, it's so clear, even in terms of, I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but in terms of the approach that we have, so that the I guess finishing school almost that Elchanan went to as a rabbi before we came to the United Synagogue was with Rav Berkowitz. Some of you who were with us with in Poland on the last trip heard him speak, which was really very powerful, and please God we'll have other opportunities. He doesn't leave Israel. He's not from there originally, but since he moved there, he's never left. But he sends all of us out here. So that's his kind of, he sends us all out, but he won't leave the land of Israel. But one of the missions from him. So it used to be very much about trying to bring the Jewish people closer in terms of, you know, connecting them more with Shabbat. That's the main one actually, but like kosher, Shabbat, etc. Now it's very, very much about helping people to access their belief. The generation has shifted so much so, and it's really what we've been talking about, but like our final, like we're you know, like we're here in terms of Mashiach, our final work now is, even as we're being tested and tested and tested, to work on our belief and to work on that muscle. So this really does, like in the most incredible way, this feels like the most amazing mission, but it's not my mission, it's your mission. It's all of us to go and have conversations with the people not in the room to talk about God. And I know that many of you do. And it is really not in a preachy way, not in an I have the answers way, but like in a way of when something hard happens, let's talk about it. Let's not avoid mention, like God forbid, don't mention the G word, you know, but like, let's talk about, are you angry with God? How do you understand God's place here? Let's have those conversations. Elchanan reminded me, because he listens to the news and I don't, that today's the 20th anniversary of 7/7, right? Yeah. Can you believe it's 20 years? Yeah. And the kings that I just looked up now, the king spoke about the importance of being united and different nations respecting each other. And really, genuinely, I do think that the good people of every faith and every religion believe in God and can have these amazing conversations about God. And I think sometimes if we left it up to like the faith leaders rather than the political leaders to have these conversations, maybe we'd reach peace quicker. Maybe we'd get to a place where we realize that we all believe in the same God. There's variations, of course, but you know, we need to connect to our humanity, which is our godliness, right? God didn't just put a divine spark into every Jew. God put a divine spark into every person. So every human being needs to be able to see that in each other. And I think that these Emunah conversations aren't just about us having conversations with our Jewish friends. I think they're about us having conversation with everyone, because everyone, you know, our role as Jews is, as we know, we're the idea of being a light unto the nation. Well, that's part of it. It's not telling people to be Jewish. It's about showing people God, bringing these discussions to life. And it's okay that we're kind of grappling with it as well. Grapple with it together. You know, have a conversation about it. I think these are very, very powerful. Okay. So we're going to go back to talking about Sergeant Nathan Rosenfeld, because I wanted to share, Johnny Solomon, who's been here before, wrote a beautiful post that I want to share with you about him. And there's a few stories as well. Earlier today, so this is Johnny Solomon speaking, Donna and I traveled to Ra'anana to attend the shiva of 20-year-old Sergeant Nathan Rosenfeld, Hashem Yimkom Damam, which means God should avenge his blood. You know, when we said that they wrote on the flag that we will not forget and we will not forgive, right? That is true. But we also believe, like we say every year, that Hashem is, when we open the door at Seder night and we say that Hashem is going to avenge. Don't worry, no one's getting away with anything, yeah? They won't. They will not get away with it. Hashem is going to take care of it. So that's just when it says, you might see it on some HYD, it means that God should avenge their blood. And to offer words of comfort to his remarkable parents, Avi and Sam. And just before leaving, I asked Sam what I could do to be of support to them, to which he responded that I should write something here, he means on his blog, to convey their core message. And so this post is not just a summary of my visit, but a fulfillment of the wish of what we hope will be the last family who have joined the long list of Mishpachot Shulot, bereaved families. Unfortunately, they're not the last family. As I explained in a post that I wrote last night, I believe that God gifts those who've suffered heartache with the clarity to speak deep truths, which so many of us are unable to grasp or convey. And as I leaned in and listened to Avi and Sam this morning, I truly sensed that their words were nothing short of divine. However, before I share what they said, I want to tell you 3 things that I observed and that I learned about Avi and Sam, which simply blew me away. Firstly, both Avi and Sam went out of their way to thank each individual for coming. I'm going to pause at this point. Whenever you go to a shiva and people say, I know I'm not meant to say thank you, but thank you. I don't know where that comes from. There isn't a law that you're not allowed to say thank you. So if you'd like to thank people when they come to a shiva, you're allowed to. Isn't that interesting that everyone goes, I know I'm not meant to, but what you're not meant to do when we go to a shiva is you're not meant to start the conversation. You're meant to wait for the mourner to talk to you. That's important because they might not want to be talking. And really what we're meant to do is focus the conversation on the mourner and on the bereaved person if we can. I remember sitting at so many shivas, including when I was sitting shiva myself, and people are talking about the sales at Brent Cross. Like, it's just not what a shiva is meant to be about. It's meant to be a really special space. And anyone who's been to a shiva that's like that, which is a special space of sharing memories about people, obviously not everyone is in that space, not everyone wants that. But when you can, it really changes the nature of a shiva. But I just wanted to explain that it's okay to say thank you if you want to. You don't have to, but it is okay. So they went out of their way to thank each individual for coming. Of course, in any other circumstances, this would be obvious. But in this case, they just buried their beloved son yesterday, and you would fully understand if they were depleted. But this is not who the Rosenfelds are. And so, even in such a difficult situation, they went out of their way to make every individual who came to support them feel welcomed and valued. Secondly, both Avi and Sam listened to each individual who came to speak with them with the most remarkable amount of attentiveness. A friend of Natan was speaking with Avi and recounted some of their episodes together. And as I was standing nearby, I observed how Avi listened to every word as if the only person around in this crowded tent was this young man. Then, when the young man was about to leave, Avi made sure to bless him that he stay safe in his army service, and he then hugged him tightly. Similarly, when Donna and I began speaking with Sam, she began by asking about Donna's welfare, and then as she proceeded to share her message with us, it was as if nothing else mattered. We thought we'd come to comfort them, but through their holy words and actions, they were comforting us. And thirdly, just before we were leaving, Donna and I began speaking with Rachel Klein, who is Avi's older sister, who then said something so remarkable to us that I am still trying to make sense of it. When the soldiers came to inform Avi and Sam on Sunday afternoon that Natan had sadly fallen in battle, Avi called his sister Rachel, who lives in London, and said the following. I'm literally crying as I type this. I feel so sad for those soldiers because it must be so difficult for them to be the ones who inform parents that their sons has died. Avi didn't say this hours or days or weeks after this moment. Instead, he said it in the moment while expressing such remarkable empathy for others, despite the fact that he had just been told that his son had died. Having now told you about this remarkable family, I would like to share their message that Avi and Sam shared with us, which is an elaboration of what I shared in their name last night. When soldiers go into the army, the term achi, my brother, which is used on the street by regular Israelis as a term of endearment, takes on a whole different level. Those who serve in the IDF come from a huge range of backgrounds, But when they serve together, and when they say the word achi, it's not a cliche. Instead, they mean it. During the time that Natan proudly served as a sergeant in the 601st Combat Engineering Battalion, there were no distinctions between himself and the other soldiers in his unit. He did not label some secular and others religious, or some right and others left. Instead, they were his brothers, and he was ready to die for each and every one of them, as they were for him, simply because they were his brothers. Yet it does not end there, because when you serve in the idea, you are there to protect and defend the people of Israel. And just as you see your fellow soldiers as brothers, you choose to see every other citizen of the state of Israel as a sister or brother. This is precisely what Natan did, and his commitment to the unity of the Jewish people was a huge source of strength and inspiration. Quoting one of the speakers at the Levaya, Sam noted that when someone dies, we say to their loved ones, "May the Omnipresent comfort you among the rest of the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem." And why should the mourners be comforted among other mourners? Because when it comes to loss, we draw no distinction between secular, religious, right or left. Instead, when people die, we mourn together. Yes, the Jewish people know how to mourn together. However, we've yet to prioritize living together with unity, with achdut, which can only be achieved when we truly understand that we are all sisters and brothers and that we have to look out for each other. And so, at the request of Avi and Sam Rosenfeld, and in the merit of Natan Rosenfeld, Hashem Yimkom Damam, I'm sharing this message here, which is to prioritize unity, to look beyond and to live beyond the labels that are used far too frequently to fracture, divide, and cause rifts within our people, and to encourage every Jew to think of those beyond themselves for the sake of their Jewish sisters and brothers and the Jewish people as a whole. I thought I'd printed the picture, so that was Johnny's article. I thought I printed the picture, but I haven't. I'm just going to read out to you. Maybe I did. A Yid from Bnei Barak walked into the Shiva house of the Rosenfelds and quietly asked, "Who is the father?" I pointed him to Avi. I asked, "Do you know anyone here?" He said, "No." So I asked, "Then why did you come?" He answered simply, "It's the least I can do." He walked over to Avi. They embraced and both began to cry. Avi told him through tears, "Thank you for coming. We are one nation. We must continue to love one another. Two strangers, one heart, one people. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael, who is like the Jewish people." I wanted to print the picture because you can see he's, clearly a very ultra-Orthodox man. Avi is clearly a very religious, modern Orthodox man, hugging each other, and that's what it's all about. I spoke in another community this week, actually, and we were talking about Torah learning, and we were talking about Natan came up, and we were talking about it, and there was one of the questions was talking about why the Haredim don't go to war. And you know what? We could run a 20-part series and we still probably wouldn't get to a point where we really understand, because both groups have very, very strong feelings, and within my own family we debate this and we talk about it, and it's very, very, very painful. But actually, if we can put politics to the side for a minute, if we can put religion to the side for a minute, religious levels I should say to the side for a minute, if we can just focus on the fact that we are brothers and sisters. And this man made the journey from Bnei Brak just to say, "I love you, you're my brother, and I'm so sorry that you're hurting." That's what we're about as a people. That is what we're about. And I know it's hard, because I know that we can get really caught up in who does serve and who doesn't serve, and why is that, why that. I shared with them, actually, if you remember from last week, the story about in the supermarket, because we do understand that different people have different roles and different people do different jobs. And actually, I was speaking this week with my friend Sarah in Charlotte, who has one son who's learning in Kollel and one son who's fighting in Gaza, or not in Gaza, in the West Bank, I think. but who's fighting in the army. And I said, I feel like you're the best person who can speak about this, because actually you have both, and they respect each other, and they're so clear that they have different roles. And the brother in the army does not think that his brother should be fighting the war. And the brother who's fighting, who's learning in Kollel, does not think that his brother should be sitting in Kollel. They both are very clear that they're both doing things to help protect our people. I'm not equating them. Yeah, I'm not equating them. I'm not saying the Torah, some people do that. The Torah learning is just as important as fighting the war. The fighting was more important. I'm not saying that's politics. We're not talking politics. We're talking about the fact that we're one people. And I know it's hard because it's different values than what we can understand. It's much easier to understand the value of the Rosenfeld family, who've literally sacrificed their son's life to serve our people. But their message to us, they're the ones saying this. And part of the unity that they're striving for is they know that this is causing massive, massive divides in the Jewish people, in the land of Israel. It's a really, really contentious issue. And they're saying, let's be united. Let's not wait for someone to die so that we remember that we love each other. How often does that happen? Yeah.
And as you say, they all put each other up. His friends, they're all up. But when he explained to me, he said, you know, this is one of our own, the whole of Renana, the whole of Renana. And they were heartbroken as if it was their own personal son. And they had the same reaction with Mama leaving when she was from Renana. So the whole time, although every single hostage, when Mama got released, she was one of their own, and the whole of Renana came out when she was brought back. And they treat them like their own daughter.
Yeah.
It's and again, it doesn't matter for what side you come from in Renana. It doesn't matter. They're one of their own. It's one of their children. And the way he spoke about it, I think it was a very heartbreaking. I mean, they're all hurting, aren't they? So, but they all come to and try. It's a comfort.
Yeah. And Renana's huge. It's not like they all know each other and they live next to each other. It's huge. It is, yeah. Yeah. But you don't, yeah.
But they're all one of their own.
Yeah, it's one of our own. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think with Natan particularly because he grew up here, he was here. To what age was he? Yeah. So he went to independent. He was in primary school here with like Kathy's granddaughter, but so many people. Like he lived in Hendon. Like we know, you know, like he went to the Shuls. I know, and I know his brother, and it's just we're all family. But actually, I think that's the point. Is this one's hit us harder, but every time that someone dies, they are our brother.
It was interesting when I read that article, and I read it, and I read it about 3 or 4 times, and that end bit about everybody being one people. I sent it to a few people, I just thought, this is what it's all about. But what hasn't been said is that Natan's older sister's fiance was killed at 7. So that family's had to go through an awful lot of this. I spoke to my granddaughter, and I said to her, when did you last see her? She said, well, I'm trying to see them this time. She just came back from Israel. She said, but when I was on my gap year, we met several times. She said, although we went to school together for secondary school team to Israel, as a group, they were a very tight group at the end. And they're thinking, some of the friends throughout the boiler, they're thinking of doing something more for as well. It's, you know, it's hard to go through it. It's just,
Just, you know, whatever the message that Hashem's trying to give us, like, let's just learn it already, enough. You know, we don't need to keep being reminded, or maybe we do. Do you remember that feeling after October the 7th, where we all just wanted to just shower everyone with love? And then what happens is, it's just human nature. And then Hashem had to show us, you know, another thing. Just remember and it's enough reminders, like, let's just hold on to that feeling. And I think the challenge is, and I'm talking to myself really, the challenge is the people that we like, it's really nice and it's lovely and it's a really helpful way of viewing the people we like is we're all one. Think about those people who are part of the Jewish people who we don't like. Can we admit that in this room, that there might be a Jewish person, maybe even someone who lives here in Bushey near us, maybe even a family member who we just don't like? Maybe that's where the work really is. Maybe that's really what Hashem. Maybe Hashem's not talking about, as you leave here, make sure, and of course you should make sure to give love to everyone and make sure to wish everyone a wonderful day and pick up the phone to your friends and have a lovely conversation. What about the people we don't like? What about the people we don't get on with? Can we love them? Can we feel united with them? That's the hard work. We're about to go into the 3 weeks now, which is, that time in our history where we have national mourning, but we also know that this is going to be one of the sources tells us that Tisha B'Av, the saddest day, is going to be the day when Mashiach comes. We have the custom in our home so until midday, you're meant to sit on a low chair. You're not even allowed to learn Torah. You really, it's a time of mourning. But then from midday, you're allowed to start focusing on. Actually, we have there's a custom of starting to sweep the house. I try to tell my kids that you have to organize your rooms now. There's nothing else to do. Everyone has to go to their room and they have to clean it up and all. But I do feel in the afternoon, Moshiach's coming. You need to get your house ready, right? We need to be ready for Moshiach coming. There is this idea that Moshiach's going to come on Tisha B'Av. We don't know exactly what that means, what stage of Moshiach, etc. But we're entering that time. But what's really interesting about that time is we're told by the sages the reason that the temple was destroyed is because we hated each other. I wish I had the quote of it, but Rav Berkowitz, who genuinely is the person who just loves every Jew as they are. I don't know anyone else who has so much love for the Jewish people. The antidote is called sinat chinam, which is baseless hatred, is ahavat chinam, loving people for no reason. So just like the issue was hating people for no reason, the way that we can rectify that is to love people for no reason. And Rav Berkowitz said, how can you have loving people for no reason? There are so many reasons to love the Jewish people. There are so many reasons to love every Jew. He doesn't understand. How can you love someone for no reason? There are just so many. Every person you meet, there's so many reasons to love them. But I know we're not all Rav Berkowitz, and some people are. Genuinely, we find annoying. Genuinely, we find difficult. Genuinely, we find hard to love. But it's actually about reaching out to those people, finding the way to love those people. I'm going to finish with, as we started actually, and as we have on our bracelets, we have this quote from Agam Berger. So I saw this picture this week. So some of you might know the lady in the picture is Sivan Rachav Meir. So some of you might have heard of her. She's a journalist. She's really an amazing lady, but she just spent a Shabbat with Agam. And I'm going to share with you what she shared. This picture with Agam and Meirav Berger was taken on Saturday night. So many Shabbats and holidays were held with the organization. This is all translated, so I don't know what the Hebrew word for it is, but Jewish connection for Agam with her family members when she was a captive in Gaza. So one of the big things that they did was they would do big Shabbats together to keep Shabbat together, to keep Yom Tov together as a merit to get Agam out. And the Shabbat, God blesses, Shabbat of gratitude together with her. This Shabbat, sorry, unbelievable, we had a Shabbat with her. What wasn't captured, what happened during the Shabbat. So they can only take this picture at the end of Shabbat, but she shared what happens during Shabbat. Agam's conversation on Shabbat afternoon with hundreds of graduates of pre-military preparations. So she spoke to hundreds of soldiers. She and her family answered questions, and Agam told what gave her strength. We know what gave her strength. What was it? Faith. It's here. We know, right? We've been studying this. Faith. It was clear to me that there was meaning in what was happening to me. I knew all the time that God was with me and that I have a role to do. The Tish on Friday night in the history of Aran. Okay, I guess these are just places. Disciples in Hundreds Gates. In Mesharim, maybe it was. Shlomi Berger spoke, Agam's father, and invited him to the stage for a conversation and a blessing in front of hundreds of excited followers. At the same time, Agam and Meirag were received with enthusiasm with the help of the women. I think this is talking about that they went to a tish. Oh, yes, it's in Toldos Aaron. I understand now what the English is. Toldos Aaron is a very big Hasidic group in Mesharim. So you're talking about going to like the deepest, darkest Hasidic part of Mesharim. So they had a tish there, and Shlomo Berger, the father of Agam, was treated and was invited up to the stage. Which, if you've ever been, has anyone ever been to a tish? Yeah. So like that is really like an honor to be. It's like hundreds, if not thousands, of people there, and to be invited up to the front. And also Agam and Meirav were looked after by all the women. It's very, very separate. It's not like this. It's like you've got like a little holes in a grate or something for the women to see through. It's an adventure. I do recommend if you're ever in Jerusalem on a Friday night, it's definitely an adventure, but it is definitely more comfortable for the men than the women to see what's going on. But it's an amazing experience. So the attitude of the women touched Agam especially. I did not imagine that you know about me, praying for me. So she was blown away. These are people that before October the 7th, you're talking about, it's not just worlds apart, they are universes apart, right? They're universes apart from us, right? They are universes apart from this family. And now that we're all brothers and sisters, right? She was so blown away that these people were praying for her. Because, you know, before this all happened, if they were to walk past each other in the street, I mean, even in Mesharim, you know, where there's those huge signs saying, please make sure you're dressed modestly. You can imagine that they are, I always say like Ben Yehuda, which is like the town part of Israel, and Mesharim is like, never should their paths merge because they are worlds apart. And Agam would have been more comfortable in Ben Yehuda than 100 times than in Mesharim. But now she sees that there's just love and that they prayed for her. She was blown away by that. It's amazing to see how many people approach. Okay, and say, I'm sorry, the translation is not great. Instead of peace, instead of introducing themselves, they simply say the words from a number of Psalms that are so familiar with her. Through faith in my choice, right? So they keep saying the parts of faith that she was talking about. And then they tell how this sentence strengthened them, entered their lives, and accompanied them through their challenges. So they're talking about how your faith helped me. The fact that you, a secular Israeli, taught me about faith. We can all say that, right? We're wearing her bracelets. We're feeling strengthened by her. The security guard at the entrance to the Jerusalem hotel told her that he waited all Shabbat to take a selfie with her. Agam replied with a smile, oh, you waited a little. People waited for me 482 days, right? You waited all Shabbat. You wanted a selfie with her, but people waited for me 482 days. And in the musical contrast at the end of Shabbat, the whole community of Jewish connection, Haredim and secular who studied together, Torah Jews of all kinds from all over the country, along with a community of Nova survivors, graduates of preparatory school, the soldiers, and of course the Berger family, themselves all eyes in the prayers of our brother, every house of Israel, prayer for the kidnapped, for the soldiers, for the injured, for the evacuated, for all the people of Israel, right? We're talking about Achenu, the prayers we say here. They're saying that all together at the end of Shabbat at Havdalah. All of this is not photographed, but there are moments of eternity, I think they can give strength and inspiration to us all. Shavua Tov, a week full of good news. So I think that's just a nice thing to uplift us, because I know it's been a heavy morning, but we must continue to be uplifted because there are good stories. And as I shared that we didn't know would any of them come back, and they have. And we still have 50 more that need to come back. And we cannot give up on them. And we must continue to pray for them. And we must continue to believe, to have faith, because they can feel it. They can feel our faith. And as I shared on the group, we're going on tomorrow night. I told you it's a busy week. Tomorrow night, we're going to hear the mothers of the hostages. So many of the mothers that we spoke about, Elkanah's mother's going to be here. Dietza R is going to be here, the mother of Avinatan. Yeah, I'm not sure all the names, but it's in Hendon. Please come along if you can. If you don't have other things that you have to do on Tuesday night, I just think that this is the messages for our generation. We are, as we know, this is like standing in the company of greatness. We need to show them our support, but we know we're going to come away feeling like we will gain so it will be heavy, it will be hard. Their boys are still there. Their boys are still there. But if anyone who can, I think it will be a really, really powerful evening. I want to share one more thing that someone sent to me from the group, so thank you for that. And unfortunately, again, this is a really tragic, it's about a soldier who fell in battle. But I think that his message to us is so powerful that we need to know it and we need to live it. So after Omer van Gelder, Zechrona Levracha, his memory should be for blessing, fell in battle, his family found messages he had written in the Notes app on his phone, words of profound meaning and timeless importance. At the request of his family, I'm sharing them here. Please read them in his memory. If we constantly reflect on the situation we're in and on the losses we've endured, if we truly grasp the number of precious souls who gave their bodies and their lives for us, we will be overwhelmed by emotion. On the one hand, the grief is immense, unbearable. But on the other hand, there is a tremendous sense of purpose. Our lives were paid for at an unimaginable cost, so they must be worth more. Just living is not enough. Our lives must be worthy of the sacrifice. We have to do meaningful, great things. We have to use this life to become better, much better. If we waste our lives and fail to become the best version of ourselves, we are disrespecting those who gave everything for us. But if we live life to the fullest, if we strive every day to be the best we can possibly be, maybe we'll be worthy of their sacrifice. And if I'm no longer here, I ask this of everyone who loves me. Be good. Be the best you can possibly be. It should be as a merit to Omer van Gelder. Again, steering away from politics, but if you think about our enemies know how valuable each of our lives are. Think how many people they were willing to trade for one Jewish person. Think how many people they're willing to trade for one dead person, for one body to bury, because there is no number that you can put on the value of a Jew. There is no number. There's no number you can put on the value of a human being, but we value our people. But that means actually that we value every one of us. We have to realize that we've got to live our best life. And if we walk out of here and the message that we get is just to be depressed and to despair, we've missed the message of what these soldiers, these young guys want us to know. We started off by talking about that flag with everyone's names on. We're all carrying a flag and we know that we don't know every name. And we know that we don't know every story, and there are too many of them. Right? Whether it's the people that were lost on October the 7th, the number is too big for us to imagine. Forget about even when we do trips to Poland and we start thinking about the Holocaust. The numbers are too big. But what we do know is we're standing on the shoulders of giants, all the people who came before us. And we can go further back in our history, and you think about the Crusades, where entire communities were wiped out, so much so that there are no survivors. There are no people who can tell the story. I saw this week some nice news that some of the kibbutzim have been moving back in. Amazing. I mean, they are so brave, because it's not as if I saw this morning, one of them already, there was a rocket sent from Gaza. Yeah. She said, like, how are they still sending these rockets? I don't know. But that's what we do as the Jewish people. We move on, but we don't move on and disregard that which came, that which we lost. Because of what we've lost, we're going to move on and be even stronger. And because of in Natan's memory, and because of in Omer's memory, and because in memory of all of them, we've got more sense of mission. We're going to do more. Today, we're going to do that little bit more. Whether that means making a phone call to a person who we don't really get on with, we're going to do it. We're going to make that call. Whether it means being kind to someone who we might not necessarily want to be kind to. Whether it means opening up our siddur and saying something like Emily Damari did every morning when she woke up. We're just going to say thank you. Every one of us can do something. Just something. We know what that thing is, and if we don't, we can talk about it together. But we just need to try our best. We need to be our best. And that's really how we're continuing their legacy. I think Omer's words are such a powerful way to end. We have a mission. We have a mission. We've taken our gums mission. We're wearing it around our wrists. We're talking about it. We're spending every week talking about faith. We're choosing faith each time. And part of choosing faith is we're going to continue to just be a bit better. I think what someone shared about what the chief rabbi said, just be a little frummer, right? Do a little bit more each time. We can't let each knock us down and then we can't get up again. What we're going to do with each person that we lost, and I think, like we said, this one, because he was English, because his family lives in Ranana, which, my family lives there. I'm sure everyone knows someone in Ranana, right? You can't be British and not know someone who lives in Ranana. But it's hit home. It's really, really hit home. But that's exactly what we need to do now, is we're going to do that little bit more. We're going to live our best life, carrying them on our metaphorical flag. And please God, this week, we're going to hear good news. We're going to try and find that good news to share. And you're all going to send me in some nice emails, please, because I love getting them. Okay, and we're going to hear from the mothers of the hostages, whoever's able to come. We're going to hear from Jane, whoever's able to hear from her, because we're going to continue to be inspired, and we're going to inspire each other and lift each other. And I hope that we all just have a wonderful, wonderful week.